Gamerex. Back with another video. In today's video, I want to talk about what if Carver never attacked the ski lounge. So I thought this would be an interesting theory, and let's begin. So in this episode, Carver originally attacks our group, but I'm just going to say in this episode, Carver decides, you know what, I'm not going to do it. They're free to do what they want. I'm going to leave them. Or maybe he decides to attack later on, but in this episode he doesn't attack in the ski lounge. In this episode, this means our group isn't captured, and Walter and Alvin are not killed, as Alvin is determined to make a choice. Episode 3 remains completely different. I also want to mention that Nick is a determined character, depending on your choice. We'll also say that Nick is alive here, as Nick's one of my favourites. Episode 3 is drastically different now. Carver and Bonnie are still spying on the group and waiting to have them lower their guard down. Clementine would tell Kenny and Sarita that they're in trouble and they're being hunted down. I think at this point it's safe to say that the ski lounge was a safe place, and Kenny would likely allow the group to stay. I will say that the group do eventually leave. They try to leave Carver. Everyone would remain pretty much happy in the ski lounge. You see, the events of episode 3 and 4 don't really matter. The rest of the series doesn't really happen without Carver kidnapping everyone at the end of season 2, episode 1. So Luke doesn't go missing and he doesn't get caught. Kenny doesn't get his eye beaten out. Luke, Nick, Carlos, everyone in the camera group doesn't get killed. And Sarita, so that's also another thing to note. Bonnie doesn't join our group and eventually becomes a snake later on, and we never meet Mike, who also becomes a snake. And when I mean snake, I mean pretty much betray our group. We never meet Arvo either, so our group likely remains in peace, assuming nothing bad happens in the future. Now, it is possible that Carver could have attacked our group later on, meaning that if this was like episode 4 or 5, our group would be even less prepared because they would have to look after AJ. Speaking of AJ, I believe AJ would be born at some point. However, there's one good consolation in this episode, in this scenario, is that Reggie wouldn't be killed because there's no Clementine with Sarah. And Mike, Jane, and Reggie would still be trapped. It's also likely that Jane and Mike would probably... It's likely that they wouldn't be as willing to try and get out themselves, because it was really Kenny's idea to try and get everyone to escape, and Luke, who were the only 2 people to try. At this point, AJ is born, and it's safe to say that, it's probably been about a few months, with nothing really happening besides people killing walkers. And that's kind of it. Season 2 just kind of ends. To be honest, it just kind of ends there. There's no dramatic fight, there's no more death scenes. Really, nobody else dies. That's the problem. Nothing happens. That's kind of the problem in this universe. There's nothing that really happens. Now, season 3 and 4 would be drastically different if Carver didn't kidnap everyone. Because while season 2 is nothing happens, season 3 and 4 are drastically different. First of all, Mariana would still be killed, but Javier would likely be with his family much longer, meaning that the attack may not have happened, so it may have prevented Mariana, but I think she still would have been killed. Conrad wouldn't, but in the next episode, we are able to kill Badger, and we meet Jesus, but the events with Conrad would be completely different. Francine would die, but Eli would still be alive because Clementine isn't here to shoot him in the head. So it's likely Eli would join our group. I probably should get a picture for represent each character in the future if they're not on the tier list, but Conrad isn't shot as a determined character because Clementine isn't here to be threatened by him. We make our way to Richmond and we still meet David, which gets us to episode 3. we still encounter Jesus, and eventually we get to the point where obviously David and Ava are still together. Eleanor is Eleanor, and basically Javier's story doesn't really change. Conrad potentially gets devoured by walkers, but he likely does or doesn't. And then in season 4, episode 5, in season 4, Joan could still get shot in the head, and Ava or Trip would be captured depending on your choice. However, it could be Conrad, as at this point he would have been pretty close with us. But I will state that Ava still dies because I always try to save Trip. At this point we get to the roof, but Eleanor still betrays our group. Eventually, Trip gets left behind and still dies like canon. Conrad being here as he was permanently in the original doesn't change anything. Javier still fights with David, but our decision would be more dramatic, and there's no Clementine to potentially save David or Gabe. I prefer the ending where Javier stays with Katie and they get together, and maybe Gabe's alive. As I just don't like the character David, so I always am kind of glad. Well, I don't like his character personally, so I wouldn't be trying to save him. Likely, peace would probably be a lot less dramatic in season 3, and Javier probably wouldn't be as to Javier's story, unfortunately, with Clementine not being here, doesn't change. But it is possible that the season 2 cast could have met with Javier with Richmond, as Kenny wanted to go to Wellington, so it's possible that everyone will become a Wellington and Rebecca has still died. But Carver would still be at large. Season 4 being completely different, as Minerva would still be alive with Lily, and James would still be out there. Marlon would still be trading people in, and not being known to Lewis, Ella, or Brody. Ella or Tim. Now, Brody and Marlon were fighting, and Marlon accidentally hit her, which caused her death. If this happened, there would be huge problems, because Marlon couldn't defend himself in this situation. But it was Clem that called him out, so I guess Marlon could just say that someone attacked Brody in the middle of the night, and could blame on one of the other kids. That could work. I believe Omar, Ruby, and even Lily would all be traded in, with the exception of very few characters, maybe like Mitch would stay behind, Lewis, Violet, and Ten. Marlon would just keep trading people in, that he would bring in new survivors, and trade small ones to keep himself safe. So that's the theory on what would happen if Carver never attacked the ski lounge. I quickly went over season 3 in full, and unfortunately it doesn't change the outcome, but just changed late seasons for characters being much bigger threats. Now, if Carver came back later, let's say AJ was born, then we would have a potential problem, because AJ is not only here, but we'd have a harder time trying to escape. But I said never, as meaning Carver just leaves our group alone, so we can kind of thank Carver in the sense that yes, he got everyone killed, but he helped future events play out, and made the season, in my opinion, more interesting. And yeah, peace for all.